There's some political leaders in this country who still believe in the rule of law and they want to bring it back. James Craig is one of them. He was a longtime police chief in a bunch of cities, finally in Detroit, where he's from. Detroit was one of the very few cities in the upper Midwest that did not have riots after George Floyd died. Now Craig is running for governor of Michigan. We spoke to him for a brand new episode of Tucker Carlson Today. He told us about his very first time walking the footbeat as a police officer. Here's part of it.
I'd like to tell this first story. So my first night I walked a footbeat for a couple of weeks. That's what they do to the rookies. Walking a footbeat with another classmate. He was 18. By that time, I was 20. And so I got my first opportunity to ride in a scout car, a police car. So I'm excited. So show up. And by the way, the precinct that I was assigned out of the academy was the same precinct my dad volunteered at during civil unrest.
Well,
10th precinct.
That's crazy.
So that was special. It was crazy.
10 years later.
10 years later, working at the same precinct. And so I walk up to the police car, meet my partner. He was probably a 25-plus year veteran, white police officer. He looked at me. He said, "I don't want you here." He said, "In fact, you do one thing. Sit over there. You're not going to drive the car. Don't touch the radio. Just sit there and be black." So I said,
touch the radio.
Don't touch the radio. Every new officer wants to drive the police car.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want me to drive the car.
I want to drive the police car.
So, called my dad at end of shift. I said, "I don't know if I can do this." He said, "Oh no, you don't have a choice. You must do this. You can be part of change. And the only way you do that is stay with it." And I thought about that. Hard. Made a good point. Went back to work. Things got increasingly better. But it dawned on me, even as now a 20-year-old new officer in the Detroit Police Department, I said, as a police officer, I can affect only so much change. Maybe I work in a neighborhood and do good in a neighborhood. I said, but the only way to affect and make wholesale change, I have to be a police chief. But my point was, instead of seeking solutions, hey, you're police officers on the ground. What do we need to do? Help us understand. How are you received? It wasn't that kind of welcome. Well, it wasn't a welcome at all. And so that really made me start to reflect, even then, why am I a Democrat? I grew up conservative, and I know, having worked in communities throughout my now 44 years of service, here's what I knew. People who live in vulnerable communities, particularly communities of color, they like the police. They want the police.
Yeah.
But it's shameful today that these progressives, these socialists, elective, I don't want to call them servants of people, they're political servants. They don't care about people in these communities. And here's the beauty of my candidacy. And I get asked this question all the time as I travel Michigan. "Well, Chief, Republicans don't do well in Southeast Michigan, particularly Detroit." I said, "That's true." I said, "But we have opportunity." I served in that city as their chief for 8 years. I'm branded in Detroit. The principles I've stood on, transparency, honesty, making decisions, keeping Detroit safe. Was it easy? No. But I built a great team, and we got it done. We built relationships with communities. Those folks are not going to forget. There's not a day that goes by if I'm in an eatery in Detroit and somebody will walk up to me and say, "I'm a Democrat, but I'm voting for you. I'm voting for you because I trust you."